Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex and my co-host Anthony Rivardo. Today we got a very interesting video on the line for you guys. Odell Beckham Jr. came out with essentially a video explaining what the Giants did wrong during his tenure, really what they did to Eli Manning and not building around him and really just drafting to draft and not really finding ways to build the roster and put them in a position to succeed, and why OBJ felt like he was playing his heart out but continued to lose. And we're going to put the video in right now, so you expect to see that.
I'm going to tell you, I never thought I would play for another team besides the Giants. I never wanted to win a championship for anybody more than the Giants, bro. It just was such a legendary place. I was very proud to be a part of that organization. I'm going to tell you where I ran into trouble. It was when I felt like we had the pieces. We know that Eli is a little older. I've been here now. I've given you 2 seasons. I've shown you, like, I'm capable of, I can hoop. And I felt like they never put people around Eli. It bothered me because I felt like they never built around him, and we just kept drafting, but we were just drafting, not like building an organization and a franchise. You know, we were just never good. I ran into that problem, bro, when I felt that they weren't growing and evolving as an organization. Like, I wasn't winning. Like, I hated losing that bad. Great, I was having great seasons. I hated losing. I hated it. I feel like at the end of my career, I'll be able to tell everybody, you know, the real truth of all the shit. Like, I'll come out and tell everybody everything. It just felt like I was coming to the end of a road and I was pushing for something that wasn't really tangible, bro. And that was where, like, it kind of just went haywire for me. You know, we got a new coach in there. And, you know, I feel like that's a situation I could be honest about now because people have come out and it's like anonymous coaches when we really know who it was. But I felt betrayed in a sense. Like, this coach had tried to turn me against my brothers and my people, and, you know, was telling the young guys to stay away from me because I'm not a good person or not a good team or a role model or this and.
So as you can see from this video, OBJ has some very valid points, right? Eli Manning did have the strength and the power. He was a little older, as he mentioned, but at the same time, Eli was capable of winning football games. We know this. Really, it was the offensive line that struggled. He didn't have as many weapons. The defense was a disaster. You know, dating back to 2016, this team had a chance at making a run. Obviously, those drops and the whole boat debacle. But there's a lot of stuff that, you know, OBJ didn't do right. You know, there's a lot of stuff that he could have done better. But at the same time, I don't think the coaching was in a place to help him become the player he was. Now, Anthony, my question for you is, let's say in a hypothetical scenario, an alternative universe, Joe Judge is the head coach and OBJ is on this team. Do you think that has a major difference? Do you think OBJ, you know, the antics are out the window? Do you think he's more of a disciplined player that just wants to win because his team is winning? Because I don't think he ever got to experience really winning at a high level. With a disciplinary coach that could hold things down, because I feel like, you know, when Ben McAdoo was here, he kind of let OBJ run rampant, and Pat Shurmur did the same. Like, it didn't feel like he was being controlled and really put in a position to succeed and get the most out of himself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think really the key to it is, you know, he kind of touched on it. He hated his last head coach with the Giants. He hated Pat Shurmur, and it seems like he didn't really like Jerry Reese or Ben McAdoo very much either. You know, that's pretty similar to how the fan base feels. We kind of hate those guys as well. And it, you know, if you think back to the 2018 season, towards the beginning of the year, the Giants were struggling, of course, like we have been the past few years towards the beginning of the years. And Odell Beckham Jr. was. He went and did that sit-down interview with Lil Wayne and Josina Anderson, and that was terrible. That is definitely the lowest moment in Odell's career with the Giants. That was definitely the most disappointing moment for me as an Odell Beckham Jr. fan and as being a fan of the Giants at that time. That was really disappointing to see him do that, but after that, as the season went on, he wasn't a problem. He must have gotten some stern talking to from management, and they must have probably promised him, like, you're going to be traded at some point, so just sit down, shut up, and play football. And it seemed like that's really what he did for the rest of his time in New York until eventually he was traded away. So I think that, you know, you think about it, a lot of the problems that he had probably had to do with the fact that he was very unhappy and upset with the team, just like we were, like fans. You know, we were often
pissed.
We were often pissed and upset with what the
pissed.
Giants were doing. You know, we were happy when they were winning. So was he, and that's why he was saying that he was happy to, you know, have a good season, but also to try and get Eli back to the Super Bowl. That was like his main goal.
Right.
You know, and that's really what all of our main goal was. We just wanted to see the Giants win, and in 2016 when they were winning, there were no problems. 2017, he was injured, everything went to the toilet after that, and it was tough. And then 2018, we got Pat Shurmur, and of course he gets traded away by the end of the season. I do still believe that interview with Lil Wayne is the moment that got him traded. I think if that never happens, I think there's a chance he stays around for a while. And I think that's probably one of Odell's biggest life regrets, because like he said, he just desperately wanted to stay with the Giants and win. And I think that's one of his biggest life regrets and one of the most disappointing moments in recent memory as a fan, just, hoping to see great players succeed with this team. He was a great player, and he had a chance to make success. And I think, to really answer your question fully, had he stuck around, had he not been traded, had he just maybe never done that interview, and if he stayed around and he was in the Joe Judge era, I don't think that he becomes a problem. I don't think his antics are a problem. I think really he silences the way that he did in the second half of the 2018 season. I think that would have been normal Odell Beckham Jr., silenced, not really doing anything too public and getting himself into any media trouble, just really being a football player and being an excellent football player at that. And, we've talked about Daniel Jones and his excellent deep ball accuracy, and I did a breakdown on Jones recently where we kind of touched on his deep balls, and we're going to touch on it further in the next breakdown that I do, which is going to focus just on his deep balls from this season. Odell Beckham Jr. would have totally fit this scheme to a T, and would have taken Daniel Jones to another level with those deep balls, hitting him accurately downfield. Odell Beckham Jr. could have been a difference maker for this team, and I do believe that if he had Joe Judge and he had that discipline, and he had this winning culture that everybody bought into, and once they got on this winning streak, Odell Beckham Jr., I think he would have been happier than ever, and I definitely think that, he would have had a successful career in New York if Joe Judge had gotten here sooner.
Right. Thinking about a guy like OBJ, he had his first 3 years in the NFL, he was selected to the Pro Bowl every year, the first consecutive 3 years. In his rookie season, he broke multiple records. He only played in 12 games, right? He had 1,305 yards and 12 touchdowns, and he backed that up with a 1,450-yard performance and 13 touchdowns, then 1,367 yards and 10 touchdowns, then the injury, I think it was the ankle injury he had against Cleveland, and then he backed it up with 2 more 1,000-yard performances. The guy has been one of the best receivers in the NFL, hands down. And in my opinion, the chronology, of what transpired with the Giants, when it comes to obviously the Lil Wayne interview and the kicking net, and the Paris, you could see like a blunt in the picture, and there was so many more things that the media harped on. I think that Joe Judge, and this is what Leonard Williams said last week, if you like to win, you like Joe Judge, his style, his mentality. And I think that OBJ wants to win so badly and so passionately that he actually let it get to him. I think he let losing get to him to a level so deep.
It got to us, though. It got to
us, man.
I threw tantrums myself as a Giants fan. I sat in my room after some heartbreaking losses against Philadelphia, and I threw some tantrums, and it was difficult for me. I can only imagine how it would feel to be such a, popular and talented player and just feel so stuck in a system and an organization that is so legendary and has such a rich past but has such a disappointing present. And I could only imagine how he was feeling, because I think we kind of felt the same way, but he was on just an elevated plane with those emotions.
That's right. And, it really says a lot about the Giants' infrastructure and their organization, right? Because you think about it, they ran OBJ out of town. They were forced to trade him because of the
media had a big hand in that as well.
The media, yep, and that's exactly right. The media had a big part in getting him to kind of self-destruct, and watching him kind of force his way out. Even though he didn't want to leave necessarily. Now, my big concern right now that I'm thinking about is Pat Shurmur and Jerry Reese and these guys that just did not help the Giants succeed. It does go back to Dave Gettleman. It makes me think, maybe Dave Gettleman isn't at fault for everything, because at this point we can say he inherited a terrible roster with so much cap problems from Jerry Reese. The 2018 season for the Giants was a disaster, and Dave Gettleman admitted to that. He admitted he came out and said, we did not expect that we were not going to be able to win and rebuild at the same time. I will take that on the chin. So I'll give him credit for taking that on the chin. But at the same time, you can't make those mistakes. And I think he thought he had the talent with OBJ, Eli, Saquon. Those are incredible, talented players. He had Janoris Jenkins, some really, really great guys. And the reality is they just couldn't get it done. They didn't have the coaching to get it done. If you had Joe Judge with that roster and Patrick Graham with that defense, I think we're looking at a different time in history for the Giants right now. This team might be in a really good place, but the reality is it's not there right now. And I think that we need to really start to think that Pat Shurmur was a bigger problem than first realized, because he, as mentioned in the Odell video, he said, Pat Shurmur told the younger guys to stay away from him. He told him he was a bad person, a bad guy. He told guys probably like Sterling Shepard, Roger Lewis, stay away from that guy. He's going to get you in trouble. You don't want to do that. You want to fuel the fire of an elite competitor to set the example. You don't want to alienate them from your team so that they are forced to make bad decisions to gain attention, because guys like Odell want attention, right? They really want attention. It's like anybody out there, a girlfriend or a boyfriend that just is begging, they want attention. You have to give it to them somehow, but you can't ignore them, and you can't tell people don't go near them. They're gonna do bad things. They're gonna lure you into bad situations. You have to treat them with respect, and you have to find ways to bring the best out of players like that. And they did the wrong thing when it came to Odell Beckham Jr. And now he's going to talk about it. He said after he retires, the truth is going to come out, and I think the truth is going to be Pat Shurmur was a disaster for their organization. He did not know how to handle things. And Ben McAdoo, while they were winning, and I don't think OBJ blames Ben McAdoo a lot for a lot of this, because he was doing so well when he was here. I don't think Ben McAdoo was the disciplinarian that OBJ needed in his life. I don't think he was the head coach that OBJ needed. Maybe he made him look great because he was feeding him the ball. Let's see, 158, 169 targets the first consecutive 3 years. Tons of targets to OBJ. He probably loved that. But at the same time, you have to think, maybe he wasn't holding him accountable for a lot of the mistakes, a lot of the antics, a lot of those things. And Joe Judge does that to people. Yeah. Joe Judge did it to Mark Colombo. He did it to his players. He does it to other coaches. And I think OBJ would have fallen right in line, because, the Giants are winning right now and they're looking up. And players that want to win, like Joe Judge, like Leonard Williams said.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think of what Pat Shurmur did there with his biggest, most talented player, biggest superstar in the locker room, he should have been forming a brotherhood in the locker room, that these players hold each other accountable and love each other and want to see each other succeed and want to win together. Instead, he alienated his most talented player away from the rest of the locker room, and that had to create plenty of division. We know Janoris Jenkins has come out and said that he hated Pat Shurmur. Like, this is a common theme. All of the players that played under Pat Shurmur seem to have just absolutely hated the guy, and that's really disappointing that the Giants missed so badly on that. But I also want to say, while we're talking about Odell right now, we're reminiscing over what could have been, had he stuck around and gotten to the Joe Judge era. I also want to mention, if I had to go back, would I redo things? Yeah, I would redo a lot of things, but I'm very happy with where we are right now on this 4-game winning streak. The future looks really bright. We're 5-7, but it looks like we are going to hopefully have a really strong chance of making the playoffs now. We're all really excited about that. We're in love with Joe Judge, and the Joe Judge era is fully underway. And we love Dexter Lawrence. We like O'Shane Zimenez a lot. We love Jabril Peppers. He came over in that trade. So we definitely won that trade. I think we're all in agreement of that. We won that trade. And it's just, if only there was some alternate way to have made that trade, but also kept Odell, gotten those players that have
maybe we get them back
so much to this.
We give a 3rd-round pickup from him.
No, it'll never happen. That would never happen. It would never happen. No, that would never happen. We could dream all we want. But I think, ultimately we're going to find eventually another number 1 superstar wide receiver on this team, and they will fill the role that we wish Odell was filling in the past, right? So, but yeah, I'm happy with where we are. It's interesting to hear Odell say these things and kind of, shed some light on what was truly going on over the past few years, and it really just sheds light on how far off track the Giants got, and how we're now finally back on track. That's really the main takeaway. The Giants were far off track, and Joe Judge has fixed that. He's gotten us back on track. We can have a lot of hope for the future, and just knowing that Joe Judge is the leader of our future, that is really exciting for us Giants fans, especially, like I said, as we make this push to win the NFC East and make the playoffs. And even as Chris mentioned, the entertainer mentioned to us, we even have a chance of, if we don't win the division, there's a chance with that 7th wild card spot, we could maybe even make the wild card. So Giants fans, let's be really happy with where we are right now. Sure, we can, be confused and frustrated over things that happened in the past, but let's just be really grateful for where we are right now. Thanks to Joe Judge, Patrick Graham, and the current state of the New York Giants.
Absolutely. I think that's the great way to put it. And, one last thing about the wild card. If this game against Arizona next week is a really big for us, really, really big, because what it means is, exactly, if we win, not only are we leading in the NFC East, but we're also leading in the wild card, right? Because the wild card, like the NFC East is terrible. We know this. They're getting better, but they are still at the bottom of the barrel in terms of division wins. The Giants now Washington was the second win for the NFC East against winning teams this whole year. So that's a really big deal. And Washington's neck and neck with the Giants right now. If the Giants beat Arizona, not only are they ahead in the NFC East still, but they also leapfrog Arizona in the wild card. So that's really important if Washington somehow does manage to overcome them. Nonetheless, some big news. You got something to say before we jump into the big news?
I was also just going to say, let's talk about the big news, because, I'm extra happy about that big news. But also, San Francisco, they lost last night, so we're, I think, ahead of them in the wild card race. Or we could be very soon. So the Giants have 2 paths to make it to the playoffs this year. I'm feeling very confident in Joe Judge.
Yes, sir. And the next big piece of news, drum roll, please. The Eagles have officially benched Carson Wentz, who has a $34.6 million cap hit in 2021, the fifth largest cap hit in the NFC, or rather the NFL entirely. The NFL. How crazy is that? His 4-year extension kicks in next year, and he just got benched for Jalen Hurts. Okay? The guy was seeing ghosts last week, running in circles, didn't even know what he was running away from. This is huge news for the Giants. Why? Because we're Giants fans, and we love to see the Eagles pout and lose and falter and flounder in every synonym you can imagine. But, man, I'm pretty happy right now. I don't know about you.
I just love seeing the Eagles be a poverty franchise. I've said this countless times on this podcast, on this channel, everything. There's nothing I hate more on this earth than the Philadelphia Eagles and their fan base, and really everything that has to do with that team. Absolutely hate them. Always happy to see them fail. Happy to see that their quarterback is failing, and it just makes things better for the future of the Giants in the NFC East. It does. Makes Philadelphia,
makes my heart warm.
Yeah, with Philadelphia basically having no set plan at quarterback for the next 4 years, even though they have this guy signed to this massive contract. He might not return with Philadelphia. He might get traded. Either way, they're going to have a huge portion of their cap space completely bogged down on this contract for years to come, because I think most of that contract was guaranteed. So that, that's going to be really difficult for them. You can almost even say they're not going to be contending for a playoff spot for a couple of years now. Like, they're going to have to rebuild somehow if they are going to move on from Carson Wentz. And that's exciting, because they have been pretty good for a few years, and that has hurt me to the core to watch them beat us.
It really has.
I hate watching them. I just think 2020, the Giants are really on the upswing, and I think the other 2 teams in the division that we hate the most, Cowboys, Eagles, are really on the downswing. Now, Washington's on the upswing with us as well. I know The Entertainer, I was in his live stream last night. He was saying he thinks those are the 2 teams that are going to lead this division for the next 4 or 5 years. I completely agree. That's what it's starting to look like, especially after Washington got that clutch win over the Steelers. You're just seeing 2 teams rise and 2 teams fall, and it's exciting because the 2 teams I hate the most are falling, and that's just good to see.
I don't mind. Washington is like the only team in this division that I'm like, I can tolerate them because they haven't done anything extremely bad to us. So the team,
but that's going to change soon. That's going to change soon once this rivalry heats up, because they're getting good, we're getting good. It's going to change. It's going to heat up.
Man. This is
we're going to have like a newfound hatred for Washington.
Oh yeah, but it's going to be fun beating the crap out of the Eagles and Cowboys every year, isn't it? I mean, the Cowboys could make a turnaround. But with Mike McCarthy as their head coach, I'm not entirely convinced that they're going to it really depends on if they sign Dak, because if they re-sign Dak to this massive deal, they're going to have to cut so many players, right? They're going to have, like, let's say $40 million per season. They're paying him like Aaron Rodgers money, like massive amounts of money. They're going to have to find, players to cut. They're going to be very weak at some positions. I don't think they have the coaching to supplement those deficiencies like we do on our team with like outside linebacker, Carter Coughlin, Cam Brown, Jabal Shared. These guys are stepping up. And then we have the draft next year that we can allocate some pieces toward. So I'm pretty excited, man, honestly, to see where this Giants team is going. But watching the Eagles falter is really exciting, and I think that as a Giants fan, for my entire life, I have never been happier to watch a team hit rock bottom so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, unless Jalen Hurts just steps in and is this amazing quarterback, which I don't think anyone
Highly
expects
unlikely.
him to be. He has not looked like that at any point. So unless he does that, the Eagles are very much out of the playoff race. That's one less team to worry about. It looks like Dallas is imploding as well. It looks like they're out of the playoff race. We'll see what they do tonight. Maybe they'll surprise us and play well in Baltimore. I doubt it. So, it looks like it's officially going to become a two-team race to the playoffs. But another key thing to keep in mind, depending on how things go, I believe Washington and Philadelphia will be playing in Week 17. We might need help from Philadelphia in Week 17. Looks like they're not going to be much help at this point. So just keep that in mind. While we might celebrate watching the Eagles fail, we might be rooting to have them help us in Week 17 at some point. So, keep it in mind that while we hate Philadelphia, let's not send too much bad juju their way just yet. Let's just wait a few weeks and then let's evaluate that in Week 17.
Yeah, a nice win that comes out of nowhere for the Eagles to help us out would be nice. But we have a pretty tough schedule, and Washington has an easier schedule than us, so it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this season really unfolds for the Giants and Washington. It's going to be really, really good battle. But we're here, we're doing it, we're in the race, and that's all you can ask for at this point in time, guys. But again, thank you so much, Fireside Giants community. I know we're getting so much love, and tomorrow we have an awesome video coming out. We're going to be doing Jabril Peppers, James Bradbury film breakdown with Jabril Peppers as trainer. So you're going to get like exclusive elite level content. Like, I can't even tell you. It's going to be sick. We're breaking down a Seattle film, technique, what they're looking for, what he's looking at, what he's teaching these guys. Literally the guy who's teaching these guys how to do some of these things, what some of these plays. So if you really want knowledge, information, you're going to want to be here for it. So again, thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow.